Oh, that was nasty. More than likely that I'd be caught live. But no, men are not approaching. And I might be doing a live on this phone for the last time, but there's a singer out there, because more and more of the ladies are complaining that men are not approaching. No, men are not approaching. We started this thing called Me Too about 10 years ago, and it seems like no accountability, no responsibility, of course, and none of the men are holding them to it. So naturally, especially in a world where nobody could barely afford anything, this shit is getting real. We tried to tell you that this shit was going to get real. Okay? In an economy where no one could afford anything on their own, where nobody could afford, to be on their own, especially, it seems like it's almost by design that all these relationships fail. It just seems that men are better off on their own, just watching the natural process of what happens to men when dealing with women. And it seems to go poorly for men every single time. And there's nowhere for men to fucking go. Nowhere. If there's any high-level podcasters, they all get turned into villains. Look at Andrew Tate. Look at whatever podcast. Look at Adam 22. Or it doesn't matter. If they want you to be a villain, you'll be a villain. And it's like, it doesn't matter what your purpose was. Whether you really cared about men, whether you cared about yourself. It doesn't matter. You have a lot of people who are going to run their mouths and complain and talk crap about you anyway. They'll talk even more crap about you about being kind of on the SIMP side. Not the PIMP side. You'd think you'd be doing that. But more than likely, it's the banks, it's these quote unquote love making companies that are really the PIMPs, because they create this image for a lot of these ladies out here. Kind of takes me back to that song, What is Love? What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Because in actuality, we don't know what it is. There's this movie I like to think about called Boomerang. And it always strikes me, why doesn't Halle Berry go for David Allen Greer? He's a nice guy, nice job, nice standard. But she's clearly in love with the bad guy. She's in love with Eddie Murphy's character, who's a playboy. And he innately does cheat on her. But they innately get back together, and you already know innately where that relationship is going to end up. This is like, it blows my mind too, but it's been throughout my life, where it's either I have to conform to that mindset of being the bad boy, bad character or whatever, whatever could attract the ladies, which is usually that character. Or you could try to be that simpy character and, oh, I love you, my dear, and give you my hand and love. And it's like women are very unattractive to that shit. I mean, it's just a movie, but I've experienced this in real life, where I've seen women tend to walk away from guys who are profoundly dedicated to taking care of them. Now, I'm not saying that this happens every single time, and I'm not saying that this is every single scenario, but 9 times out of 10, they just don't go for that guy. Sheesh. I mean, let's be realistic here for a second. I'd rather prefer you be yourself than try to play a character that's just like, hey guys, how you all smiling, but just express how you really feel. It's getting harder to do that without the censorship. I mean, think about how many guys have gone to jail. Think about how many guys. That's why I was so surprised in this whole Carmelo Anthony case with this football player, two of them in fact, and they give no mercy to the football players, because what do you think they've been doing to football players for the past 10 years? Yeah, I mean, it's story after story of a football player getting close to a female, and if the female doesn't like anything that he's doing, it's automatic he's a monster. And they've always been painting football players as these monsters for damn near 10 years now, for a decade. It's easy to set up men to look like monsters. And usually 9 times out of 10, the easiest way to set up a man to look like a monster is for him to be involved with a woman, whether it be, a actual civil marriage, or it could be just, wrong place, wrong time. It doesn't matter in some cases. I've seen story after story, guy knowing a chick, since they were kids, and they've been married for, 10, 12, 20 years, and they end up just getting a divorce. And who usually ends up getting all the money and child support and alimony and all this stuff? It's crazy. I mean, you got to think about this. How many family members I know, personally, who have been through divorce, child support, who have gone homeless for trying to take care of their kids, have gone crazy because they're not allowed to see their kids. And who's usually running the courts? Who's usually running? You could say the feminist, but there's simple Jack there sitting behind the chair, not even caring about what you're going through, not caring about, and men have had enough. There have been too many men. I mean, what was the name of that one chick, Anita Sarkeesian, giving all this praise to create a video game company, where she didn't create any video games, by the way. So all she did was just talk crap about men. You see it all in the movies. They're pushing more of these manly looking chicks and more of these, these kind of like, I don't want to say it, but kind of like these pussy whipped dudes, you know what I mean? Like they have to conform, they have to, and there's no wonder why there's no one going to the movies, because, used to be a time where you just kept it real. I mean, I don't mind if you're a male and you're a girly type, but as long as that's just who you are, as what you are, you're naturally that. But if you're this, playing this character because you're trying to be the nice guy and all this shit, it's just like, people could tell, man. People could honestly tell. It's like just, and in these movies, it's like, come on, man. This big fucking guy with all these muscles, and he's gonna be all like, yo, yes, madam, and then the chick's gonna be all like, I run things here, and it's like, it's out of nature. Because even in today's world, when shit hits the fan, it's usually a guy who's having to pick up everything and having to defend the post. I don't need any effects here. I accidentally pushed a button there. But it's like, it's unrealistic, because we know who's going to have to fight when the fighting starts. That's not to take away from the ladies who do know how to fight, but it's just 9 times out of 10, it's just going to be the dudes. I don't know if that pisses the feminist off or pisses off dudes who try to, "Nuh-uh, I know a girl or two in the MMA class," but it's like we're not talking about MMA class. And even in there, it's like it's 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20, 1 out of 100 sometimes in some cases, depending on how many people are in the gym. But it's usually a very small percentage of women who could beat a man in physical combat. So we take it to a place like war. It's like, who do you think is really primarily fighting wars? And if they are fighting in wars, they're primarily in a position where they're mainly not going to get touched. But it's just fuck. War is not a place for men. So why the hell do women want to be a part of that crap? Now we're in a generation where we're becoming the parents, and I don't want to see my kid go to war and your kid go to war over something stupid. Knowing that all this is stupid and knowing who's running it, knowing who's pulling the trigger. So men have to face some very difficult decisions with, the people that we deal with, because again, I know quite a few family members who are going through child support, alimony, can't see their kids, all kinds of crap, and then you have this singer over here, "Oh, the men won't approach me." Why won't the men approach me? Because there's too many avenues. First of all, you're a high-level singer, which requires a high-level dude to normally approach you. So it's not the fact, again, we have to tell you over and over again, you won't listen, of course, but we have to tell you over and over again, it's not that men won't approach you, it's that the men that you want will not approach you. Because they already know, this struggle. And even hooking up with the high-level woman, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to have a happy life. It could, in most terms, means that you could have more irritation. Seriously, more of this princess fantasy shit, dude. And it's like, we're just ordinary people, Take it back to that John Legend song. We're really just ordinary people. I hooked up with you for a reason. You hooked up with me for a reason. Maybe we should reflect on that more before I become a total man bitch and have to serve you like I'm some sort of slave or something. It's like, this whole thing of relationships is just misguided. Like, who's leading this shit? Who's teaching this shit? There's no course for this crap, and if there is, there's no one going. People think they have this shit figured out, and then you see so many of these marriages going straight to the shitter. People don't have this figured out. You're getting advice from an older generation. Of course, the new kids on the block don't know anything, and it's hard to tell them because they don't want to listen to your bullshit either. So it's kind of like, they have to figure it out, and that's what I had to figure out about, this whole red pill, blue pill thing, is that a lot of guys are going to have to figure it out on their own. I'm just like Morpheus in the movie, man. I can only show you the door. You have to choose to either walk through it. Right now, I have a family member right now. As many family members as I have who's been through bullshit. Hell, his parents have divorced. And he's still in a relationship. And I still kind of look at it and go, I don't know, I don't know. Are things going to get balanced? I don't know. But men approaching women in today's world, it's your risk. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying you have your grounds to where you could afford all this. It's going to boil down to money, no matter what. It's going to boil down to affordability. It's going to boil down to all that love, and sure, you can do all that love shit. Be all about love, but if it's gonna innately lead to you being homeless, then what's love got to do with it? Got to do with it. It's not gonna be about love if you can't sustain yourself. And if you're coming home from an 8-hour, now some guys are working 12-hour days, and you're coming home to this chick, and she's got priors. You know what I mean? A lot of you guys hooking up with chicks who's got kids from other relationships. It's like, you don't want to deal with extra baggage, but here you are because instead of keeping it in your pants, you got to get something from somewhere. Where are you gonna go? Who's got the experience? Because seriously, if you're talking about, again, you're talking about people who are literally pushing and peddling private parts, you look no further than the very own people who run this country. There's just something on Jared Leto, that guy. Of course there's something on that guy. You know why? Guy had a whole goddamn island. A whole goddamn island full of young females, and I'm pretty sure on this island where it's probably not, under, Geneva Convention or any kind of national national regulation or anything like that. There was one of those chicks who were probably under the age of a certain age that are very manageable. Hell, and even then, it's like there's also different kinds of standards. There's racial standards, there's age standards, there's generational standards. I mean, be the wrong color of person in Mississippi. If I'm a black guy and I'm dating a white chick, you know what I mean? Or be the black chick dating the white guy in Mississippi. No matter what, there's going to be problems from either side. Be that old guy, who's dating the 21-year-old chick. She's of age. But, you're going to hear all this but when she was 6 years old, he was this and that and all this bullshit. And of course, you never hear that when we're talking about the 60-year-old woman dating the 25-year-old dude. Never hear that bullshit. Never hear the other way around with that, So you're always going to get some bullshit from... And so a lot of guys have just said, I'm tired of the bullshit. I don't want to date. I want to go monk mode. But now, after dealing with what's happening to all the podcasters, hell, what's happening to you could take my very own channel as an example of how censored we get here on Tru Sherm channel. Hell, we talk about this shit quite a bit, and who listens, who cares, no one cares until it hits them right in their ass. Then all of a sudden, like, man, I should have listened. Man, I should have did this. I thought it was all Andrew Tate. No, nigga, this is... Dude, you see these fucking singers and celebrities. How come men are not approaching? You see women in cars living homeless. How come men are not approaching? Also, the fact that men are dealing with prior relationships and... Like, bro, I got a kid. I haven't dated a woman in over fucking 12 years or some shit like that. And I barely even dated her. It's like, the last woman technically I've been with is the mother of my kid. I technically, how the fuck am I going to move on? How? What am I going to do to move on? Nothing. And there's a lot of guys you're not going to be able to move on. You got, you can try, go get some trim here, get some whatever here, but here she comes from, the prior relationships, and you got to take care of the kids. Kids don't, they can't see all this stuff that you're doing with the new chick. I mean, you can bring them in and be like, oh, this is the new chick I fell in love with, but... And how's the new chick gonna feel about that, Do some Brady Bunch stuff, That always works out. You check life, check stats. Normally it doesn't. But people try it. People try to, quote unquote, prove you wrong because they know more about love than you do. I'm like, okay, sure. You went to that course in fucking college on love, alright? You got it down packed. You got a degree in love. All right. Go out there and... Hey, man. For marriage, for those it works for, it works. For many people, though, shit's not working. For a lot of people, it's faking the funk. I think some of this stuff is by design too. It's to keep people separate, to depopulate the planet, kind of some kind of cattle control for humans. That's why they don't really want the red pill out of control, because they don't want some inverted, out of control revolution. But it could be silent, it could be quiet, because that's what a lot of men are quietly doing. They're saying, okay, well, can't make podcast on it, can't really talk about it on this tube or this site or that site without being turned into a villain or Andrew Tate, or, oh, he's just doing it for the money. And it's like, well, shit, is it wrong to make money? It's like, guess it is. And, when the mindset is getting more, social and commie, but the stabilization of how this country is ran, and it's not capitalism by design, but obviously when you have corruption at the highest level, it doesn't matter what kind of economy you have, it's just going to rot from the inside out. So you also have that problem too. There's no court that's going to support you. None. No scenario that's going to support you. Most men are done. Most men are quietly just saying, and they're just looking at it like what am I going to really do? How am I going to really do this? Can't afford to even barely feed myself or pay my rent and pay for a car. Finally got my driver's license back, and that's great and all, but now I gotta go find a job, but that requires a car. Or I could walk to a place where I could drive, but I'm turning 41 this year, so we also forget about that little thing called time is against you. So you gotta have the time, the money, people making fun of you, belittling. That's not gonna help. Belittling you in every way, It's like, can't be a nice guy, what the hell is that gonna do? Can't simple jacket. You can, but you just be turned into a maroon. You'd be surprised how many guys pick up her phone and see how many guys she's really talking to. Yeah, boy, it's incredible. I tell you right now, she's talking to way more guys than you're talking to any females. Because with females, it's kind of like the game is kind of pre-explained. We know what men are looking for. You could give women the world and they can still tear it down just for shits and giggles. But even the logical thinking women will still probably want to divorce you because you're either too ugly, or your thingy-wang ain't that big, or you're too black, you're too white, you're too old, too young. Some women are logical thinking, but they're only logical thinking about the money. So what was love again? We went to college for love, but here she is taking all of your money, taking your kids, taking your house, taking your car, taking your time. So how the fuck are you gonna go off and date another woman? She's going off and dating another guy though. She's going off and marrying this guy, marrying that fucking guy. But how many women are you going to be able to talk, especially on a higher level? You know what I mean? That high level poo-tang. You're not really going to get high level poo-tang if you've already, But again, there are a lot of guys who could, break the rules, but there's many guys who continue with the rules. There's just that many guys who they know they're not going to get better than what they had the older they get and time goes on. There's a certain peak, there's a certain level, there's a certain prime. After that, no matter what you do, no matter how much you push the clock, you're not gonna get it the way that you had it. Unless you're like Ric Flair or some shit like that. And even then, you're starting to cross into this, some of that ep style file shit. So you know what I mean? Some of that craziness. And of course, I'm not saying everything in the files are, everyone's guilty, but clearly, even when the people who said that they are going to expose it are a little shaky on it, then something ain't right. This world that we live in isn't right. Have you ever took just a good look at some of this shit sometimes? Just stand back and just have a good look at just the planet that we live on. Can we even trust half of the crap that people say to us? That's why I tell you guys, man, be careful what you listen to with me. I know I like to ramble and, spew off, but I'll just say be careful with dating, man. Be careful with that, because there's a reason why this famous singer is sitting on a podcast talking about, oh, men won't approach me. Well, I can talk to the ladies, they won't listen, but let me talk to my fellas out there. What do you think about that? Why do you think that's happening in today's world? Why do you think the men more than likely are not approaching? The high-level men, even the low-level men, the simple jacks are no longer approaching. It's like, so it's time, value, money. You go listen, you go talk to a numerous amount of podcasts. I guess, it has gotten to a point where it's like, it'll recycle, reshuffle. But if I do any kind of podcasting on any kind of red pill stuff, it's, won't be for money, won't be for fame or anything like that. If I even talk about it, I was thinking about doing some DJing and talking about some old wrestling or something. Talking about some, games or stuff like that. But every once in a while, some people ask me about some red pill stuff, so I don't mind talking about it. But, it's this or that or the other. But I will see you guys later. Hit the like button if you can. We'll probably be starting, try to do a StreamYard soon if I can. We'll see when I can get away with it. If not this month or the upcoming month, which will be in August, then probably in September, no later than the end of the year, hopefully. So we'll see what we can do and what we can get away with. So this will probably be the last time you see me on this phone. I'm probably going to get a brand new phone here, but I will see you guys later. Peace out.